All right, paragraph 4. No capitation or other direct tax shall be laid unless in proportion to the census or enumeration herein before directed to be taken. Now this has been changed by an amendment, but let's think about what it actually is saying, and then we can briefly discuss the amendment. The 16th Amendment, one of the greatest ones ever. I'm kidding. All right, direct tax, I think that's pretty easy. What is capitation? Decapitation, we know. It's basically a tax. That is a tax that you're paying individually. Decapitation, you're losing your head. Capitation. Capitation is a tax or other direct tax, something you're paying directly, as opposed to a tax on goods being brought into the country, a direct tax, something the people are paying directly. Okay? It says those things have to be laid in proportion to the census or enumeration. The census we talked about already. They have to be in proportion to that. So what that says is, if the state of Indiana makes up 10% of the population, then if Congress wants to lay a direct tax, then Indiana would have to provide 10% of whatever the tax. If they wanted $1 million, Indiana would have to cough up $100,000. Okay, so the tax money has to be spread out based upon that capitation, that enumeration. Okay, is that pretty straightforward? Makes sense. Congress couldn't go to Indiana and say, all right, you guys are poor rednecks, you pay us $5, and go to New York, you guys are rich rednecks, give us $10. It would have to be the same amount from everybody, and it lays it out by states. Okay. Now this was changed to allow for an income tax. Think of the difficulty of saying we want everybody to pay 10% of their income. It doesn't say that the percentage has to be the same. The actual money given has to be the same. So an income tax would have to be, to meet this, would have to be very, very carefully construed so that Indiana, in our earlier example where they had to pay $100,000, Indiana paid $100,000. The tax rate would have to be such that we paid that much. And every state would have to be tailored so that that interest rate or that the tax rate would cause them to pay what they were required. Not really possible. Okay, in fact, several times income taxes were declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. All right, Congress passed some and they were struck down because they failed this right here. Okay, to fix that, we do get an amendment. And if you look to Amendment 16, nice, short one. I don't know if it's nice, but it's short. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source derived, without apportionment among the several states and without regard to any census or enumeration. Okay, so it's specifically picking out the direct tax of income tax and says that does not have to be based upon the population. Yeah.
Is it true that, and I heard someone, maybe it was a conspiracy theorist, but he said that the income tax is illegal, and the way that it was proposed should never have happened?
I've heard people bring that up, but I really don't think there's any substance to that as far as I know. Mm-hmm. People say something about the process was not right. Yeah. I don't know of any real meat to that. I will agree that it's the most idiotic way possible to tax, I think. It'd be hard to come up with a stupider way to tax, especially a progressive income tax of today, where the people who are most successful, we punish the most. Think about doing that in sports or something. You know, if you scored, well, it might work good for our soccer team. If you didn't score any points the last game, you start out with 10 automatically, and the other team has to give them to you. The first 10 shots scored by the other team count for you. You know, we don't, nowhere else in life do we accept this idea that the most successful people need to get punished. We give them trophies and awards. But here with income tax, they get punished. Right? We're talking about the people who provide jobs, the people who run our economy. If there's a new hospital that goes up, it's not the poor people that live in the trailer park that are paying for that. Okay, it's some rich guy with a lot of money that puts that hospital up, and our tax code punishes him. Okay, it really is idiotic. Illinois, they can't figure out why people keep leaving their state. They are in the process of raising the income tax again at the state level. All right, we're getting flooded with Chicago people in this area. It kind of stinks because they're all liberal, but they're getting away from the taxes. So anyway, this effectively bans an income tax, but we changed the Constitution to allow for that. So, okay. Good? I mean, it's not good, understand? All right, next one, paragraph 6. No tax or duty shall be laid on articles exported from any state. Congress can't set up some kind of system where if we make something in Indiana and we're selling it in Michigan, that we have to pay a tax to cross the border with it. That isn't, we already have Congress having the authority to regulate interstate commerce, and here they're saying that regulation can't include a tax on exporting things. So, there were some people, Hamilton and Madison, of ones we know, that really thought the income would be needed to run the government. So they really argued, no, we need to have this tax. Looking back, I mean, can you imagine it being a taxable offense to drive across the border into Michigan? That's something foreign to us. It would have done a lot to separate us out and to not make us feel like one country. So, very good, I think. All right, number 6. No preference shall be given by any regulation of commerce or revenue to the ports of one state over those of another. Okay, let's stop there. That's, I think, pretty self-evident. Congress can't say that if you bring your ocean-going vessels through Lake Michigan and bring them to the port of Indiana, then you don't have to pay any tariffs to bring your goods in. But if you take them to a port on the seacoast, you've got to pay a 20% tariff. They can't give one preference to one or the other. Right? All right, it goes on. Nor shall vessels bound to or from one state be obliged to enter, clear, or pay duties in another. If some boat's going from Jamaica to Virginia, Florida can't say, well, we want our cut, give us a tax, or stop an airport, nothing like that. We can look at something like that and say, well, of course that won't happen. But think at the time frame. Who was doing that type of thing? Britain was, yeah. That was part of the problems with Great Britain. They were doing that type of thing. Ships going to the colonies had to go to England first and then come across. So they're saying not here. Let me see here. I just have one comment here that the courts, for what it's worth, have been pretty narrow in this interpretation. This is one area where they've not expanded what it actually says. They've said it's fine for Congress to authorize dredging out a harbor or building a bridge that might make one harbor less usable than another. Some of those types of things. Now, I'm not saying that Congress should be doing any of those things, but the courts have said that's fine. It doesn't violate this part. So, all right, questions on paragraph 6? I need to... Maybe I should just randomly pick people, and I can read a paragraph, and then you've got to tell us what it says. Sound good? Christina might be awake. Jacob? Oh, I thought you wanted to read?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll see. Maybe. I see you guys all like, at least then you would read with some interest because you might have to explain it. So, all right, next paragraph. No money no money shall be drawn from the treasury. I wish it just stopped right there. No money shall be drawn from the treasury, but in consequence of appropriations made by law. Okay, so tell us what that's saying. Something more than there's got to be a law that says we can spend money, but anybody else?
Just take money out just for the fun of it. They have to have a real legitimate reason to do it.
Okay, more than a real legitimate reason, there's got to be a a law, all right, that goes through Congress that the president signs. The president doesn't have the authority to look at the federal checkbook. I'd like to see, maybe he's got... Did you guys hear about the Final Jeopardy answer? The question was, what is this flower or something like that? And the hint was, sometimes liberals are described this way. It was a bleeding heart something. And the girl put pansy. So maybe he's got pansies on the federal checkbook. And he's looking at the balance and says, oh, we've got extra money. Let me send flowers. And he can't do that. All right? There's got to be a law that authorizes spending the money. Okay? That's why Boehner's the complete fool here with this 2-year budget plan. He will get up and talk about he tried to stop Obamacare and tried to stop the president's amnesty program, which is completely unconstitutional, tried to stop this, tried to stop that. But just remember, he's the man who gave up this authority. So any spending of money has to go through the legislative process. John Roberts on the Supreme Court, he can't say, well, we just need a new building, let's build it. All right, it's got to be authorized by Congress. Okay, is this good or bad? Think of the leverage it gives Congress. We talked about the separation of powers and how important that is. Is this bad? Good? I think it's good. Is that an overstep? I don't think it is. All right. The Congress, at least the House originally, is directly elected by the people. It's the only part originally that was directly elected by the people. So any money getting spent has to be approved by them. It isn't the Supreme Court, Roberts, or whatever branch of government. They can't just arbitrarily dip into the federal bucket. So Congress usually would just allocate a certain amount of money. This is for clerical expenses at the Supreme Court, and then Roberts could take that money and buy his pansy-covered checkbook with it or something. It's not that Congress has to authorize every expenditure, but they do block the money out. I wish they would. It would at least keep them busy doing things that aren't so damaging. Okay, so no money can be taken out other than by a law. Okay, and that is what Roberts is pushing through right now with the president. They're raising the debt limit by, I forget how much, and funding things for 2 more years. So.
I have a budget plan. Why is our country in so much debt? And where does the money go that they say is appropriated for some things, but it never goes to that?
They spend it. Social Security, that comes out of your checks if you're in Social Security. I'm exempt. They take that and they spend it. Supposedly they save it, and if you listen to a liberal, they say, oh, it's saved. But what they do is they have figuratively speaking, they have this box, and they take all the cash out of it, and they put their IOU, and they put what it is. And they say, oh, the money's still there. And they often, when they do their accounting, they'll count it. So, oh, look, we're not in debt. We have this much money in the Social Security lockbox. It'd be like you going to your lockbox in the dorm and taking all the cash out and just put an IOU there and going to spend it. And say, oh, no, I'm not poor. I've still got the money. They just spend it. That is it. This happens on a local level, state level. They'll start a new casino and say, this is for the schools. The government just spends the money. They usually will throw some towards the schools because they don't want to get in too much trouble. They just spend it on all kinds of stupid things. So,
how'd you get exempt from Social Security?
as a minister, religious exemption. I perform ministerial-like duties. I train Christian workers. So anyway, I'm exempt as if you work at a church, yes.
I know a lot of pastors, though, like right now, are actually trying to get back into it.
Yeah.
Because it's a mess.
Yeah.
Do you think you'll go back into it?
I don't know. I don't know. If I'm 70 and there's an option to just opt back in, I'll probably take it, because at that point, what money am I going to pay in?
I know pastors that they retire from pastoring and they have to figure out some form of job so they can get, claim so they start writing books and claiming it as like a publishing company.
We've actually discussed informally with Pastor Dameron at times. Over the summers when I do construction work around here, getting paid as having that be non-ministerial salary, which then I'd pay Social Security on that. And as soon as I get enough quarters, then I'm vested into it. How do we get onto that? That's where your money goes. Okay? They spend it. All right. All of that from money drawn from the treasury. I don't know. Al Gore talked about this lockbox and the Social Security money is safe. And everybody that has a brain should have been laughing at him. Right? It's fancier, they use fancier terms, but it's just an IOU. It's just the government saying, we'll pay this money back. That's all that's there.
Can you ask yourself how the government can owe the government money?
Oh, don't worry about those types of things. Just trust them. It makes as much sense as you taking all the cash out of your lockbox and just writing a note that you're going to pay it back and claiming that you have money in your lockbox and in your pocket. If that makes sense to you, please never vote, okay? Ever, anywhere, because you've swallowed the liberal lie. All right, let's go on to the second half of this statement. An irregular statement, an account of the receipts and expenditures of all public money shall be published from time to time. So there has to be a regular accounting and publishing of where the money is going. I wonder if the president on his smartphone has, I just heard advertisements for, I'm sure there's lots of apps where you can just take a picture of a receipt and it adds it to your expense report. So he probably does that frequently, and so that he can satisfy this. So, no, they don't do that type of minuscule things, but it'll be, this much spent on, ambassadors and this much spent on that type of more block spending. But it's required that they make this public, a regular statement and account of receipts, the amount that comes in, and the amount that goes out. And you ask how they get in debt? The amount that goes out is bigger than the amount that comes in. So, but since they print the money, that's even better. If you want to make the illustration better, buy a fancy printer and you put that in your closet and you just have it print money out. So it doesn't matter if they go in debt because they can print more money and throw it in a lockbox and all of a sudden the money's there. So you go to jail for that. Please don't try that, but the government can do it. What's that? Well, because you're not the government. If you join the government, then it's legal. It's kind of like selling your soul to the devil or something. There's other consequences that are very bad, so don't do that. All right, last paragraph here, number 8. No title of nobility shall be granted by the United States. So we don't have Sir Obama. Man, I was thinking, what would we call Nancy Pelosi? Madame? Ma'am? What do you, lady? Lady? Sir. That'd be Hillary. It'd be Sir Hillary and Ma'am Obama. There are no titles of nobility. Okay? That's just, and it really here, it doesn't specify Congress or the courts. It just says by the United States. The president can't do it. John Boehner can't do it. The United States, the national level, cannot do this, period. All right, it goes on. And no person holding any office of profit or trust under them. That type of wording is there just for people that want to lawyer their way out of something. If you hold an office of profit or trust, if some senator said, I don't want to get paid, I'll just work as my civic duty, he's still holding then an office of trust. Right? If you're an elected official, if you work for the government, if you're the Secretary of State, whatever. So it's just a legality the way it's phrased. Office of profit or trust under them shall, without the consent of the Congress, accept any present, emolument, office, or title of any kind, whatever, from any king, prince, or foreign state. So if the Prince of Saudi Arabia wanted to make our president part of the royal family of Saudi Arabia, wait, would you go for that? I don't know if that, do you get a vote in that decision? Yeah. The Congress would have to agree to that. I would actually be all for that as long as he goes and lives there. If you want to be with your family, we heard about that Sunday night. You want to be with the family. But anyway, that can't be done. So this is, I think the idea is very straightforward, but there are some questions that have come up through the years, like there was a famous, you listen to it in American history, an Indian tribe that used to give a headdress to the president, and was it Carter that sent it back saying, I can't accept that because it violates the Constitution. All right, so there's, there's a famous present exchange between the Queen of England and our president. I think he gave her an iPad, and she gave him some, I mean, really a fitting president for a monarch to get, I can't remember what it was, but it was something of historic value, and he gives her an iPad. But anyway, that type of thing doesn't rise to this level. So, anybody remember what the president was? It was a...
Wasn't Obama did that? Pretty sure Obama did.
Yeah, Obama gave her the iPad, and she gave him, like the bell off of a World War II battleship that had been sunk, something, something of significance. And she...
Churchill's bus back.
Oh, he did?
One of his first things that he did was he said he had that packed up and shipped back.
Oh, what a great man. So anyway, there are questions there like, well, how, it does say emolument, office, or title of any kind, whatever. Right? So, that type of thing hasn't ever really seriously been thought of as violating this. So, but anyway, enough said. Section 10. Now, just like our president's speeches were described as sending tingles, this should send tingles. Why? Why should Section 10 of Article 1 be so exciting to us? It's the last. I mean, this is the end of Article 1. So Article 2 talks about our president. I wish it was longer because there's a lot to talk about. But so anyway, this is the end of Article 1. Let's get it done. All right. No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation. It's pretty easy. The state of Indiana can't come up with a separate trade agreement with Canada. Whatever. That is left to the national level, and very appropriately. We're one country. We don't want to have this hodgepodge of different treaties and alliances, or maybe at the end of World War II, some of the states conclude peace one way with Germany, and the others go another way. States can't do that. Okay, it goes on. States can't grant letters of marque and reprisal. What are those things? It's just some early form of John Deere letters, letters of marque.
Privateer?
Yeah, privateers. Instead of privateers, so states can't do that. If there were going to be privateers, it'd be Congress that authorizes that. They can't coin money. That's pretty straightforward. Well, maybe not. Let's read the second phrase. Emit bills of credit. That sounds like it would hurt. What is emitting a bill of credit?
Referring to our paper money.
Yeah, that's our paper money today. A bill of credit is a piece of paper that the government says is valuable. It basically, which is what our current money is. It's a bill of credit. If you look back to the things that Congress can do, it says they have the power to coin money. They are not ever given the power to emit bills of credit. And in the minds of our founders, there was two separate things. Right? I mean, there is some substance to the idea that our current monetary system is not allowable by the Constitution because we have bills of credit. Right? And you can see here two separate things in their mind. Coin money, emit bills of credit. So it does not eliminate paper money. Right? You can have paper money as long as you have gold backing it like we had for decades and decades. So, all right, so states can't coin money or emit bills of credit. The next thing, they can't make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. I don't think I have any money. Anybody have any money with them? Who's the fastest? I'll take the 10. It doesn't matter. Someplace on here, up here, says this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. All right, so here, this is saying states can't make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. The idea of legal tender is something that the government requires people to take as payment. If the state of Indiana said unhusked corn was legal tender, and you show up at Walmart with a duffel bag full of unhusked corn, I'm not sure how they would calculate the value, but they would have to accept it. Right? And here they're saying states can't make anything but gold and silver coin legal tender.
So I can go to Walmart with gold and take that as payment?
No.
Okay.
No, the state of Indiana could, if they wanted to, say gold and silver are legal tender in our state. And in that case, yes, they would have to accept it.
Is that legal in any state?
Not that I know of.
There might be something in the books way back when.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting fight if some state actually tried to do this.
I don't see you
I can see a-
Gary Walmart in there.
There is no Gary Walmart.
The corner store, that county market there off the highway. I'm going to pay with gold. Everybody turns. So, all right, but anyway, legal tender. They can't make anything but gold and silver. That. Does anybody remember what was happening in the colonial time with money? Talk about it. We'll talk about it next semester. That's why I don't remember. So.
They would use tobacco.
Yeah, they made all kinds of things legal tender. Colonial governments, if there was something that they wanted to encourage, they would make it legal tender. I mean, at some points, lumber was legal timber. You go cut down a tree, saw it into lumber, and it's legal tender. And so money does grow on trees. Is that what you said? So anyway, that was happening before, and this is scaling it back to just gold and silver.
You know, some small towns will have like their own little kind of bills of credit sort of, like they'll have like, kind of like what we do here, figuring the bucks. Is that something that, you know, is just within a certain...
I don't think it rises to this at all. This is saying states can't do that. The state could have some law about cities not doing it, but there's nothing here. So, all right, let's go on here. Where are we at here? Buy gold and silver. Buy gold. Whew. All right, gold and silver coin legal tender. Next, pass any bill of attainder. We know what that is already. So I'm sure you were already thinking, all right, I don't want to go to Congress, so let's become a state senator. That way we can just kill Josh out of hand. But that's barred. All right, ex post facto law. Or this one we have not talked about, law impairing the obligation of contracts. That one might seem strange at first, but anybody have any idea what that means? There's a legal contract. Sarah agrees with Mary that, I don't know, Mary's going to do all of her laundry for the whole semester. And Sarah's going to pay you $100 a week. Okay, not so bad. Sarah's rich. Anyway, you make some contract over something. The government can't, the state government can't pass a law and somehow break that contract. If you two make a legal contract, there's not fraud or some other wrongdoing, you make a contract and sign it, the government can't step in, the state government can't step in and say, no, we're gonna break that contract. They can't. Okay? So that also applies to agreements with the state. If the state contracts with you for something, you know, some work done, they can't just say, oh, well, we changed our mind and walk out of it. They're not allowed to break that contract.
Can national government do something?
Well, they have. They forced all kinds of banks to renegotiate
That's what I was about to say.
their mortgages.
That and like companies that want to merge and stuff, they're like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah. That's part of the companies merging is part of their control of interstate commerce, supposedly. But the federal government has impaired the obligation of contracts with mortgages. That's the best example I know of. So, all right, so anyway, at first blush you might think, wow, what's the big deal there? But really, we don't want the government to be able to step in. You make a contract, the government actually has to ensure that the thing is followed through. If Mary does all the laundry and Sarah doesn't pay, then she can go after Sarah through the court system, and the state will help her enforce that contract. So actually, it really is a very important thing in a free society where you have a free market system. The government enforces those contracts instead of being able to rip them apart. So they can't pass the law impairing the obligation of contracts. And then the last one, or grant any title of nobility. The governor of Indiana can't knight you. Yeah. Maybe you can get the Porter County Council to grant the title of nobility but anyway, the state can't do it. All right, so we have a list of things states can't do. The next paragraph starts off kind of the same. No state shall. Sorry to be boring. All right, paragraph 2. No state shall, and here without the consent of Congress. All right, so if Congress agrees with this, they can do it. No state shall lay any imposts or duties on imports or exports, except what may be absolutely necessary for executing its inspection laws. All right, so we already have, I just missed it. No tax or duty should be levied on articles exported from one state. We have Congress barred from doing that. Here, no state, unless Congress agrees, can have a tax on goods coming in or out of their state. Okay. It gives that exception, which we'll talk about in a second, but the basic thought is very simple. The state of Indiana, if we want to set up an import tax on, we should tax immigrants from Illinois. They got to pay us $1,000 or something for coming in. Yeah, we don't like you people over there. Any state that would do that to themselves, we don't want them over here. So anyway, if we want to do that, Congress would have to agree to it. Okay. Now let's think about the exception, the kind of the explanation there at the end. Except what may be absolutely necessary for executing its inspection laws. So if there was maybe a firewood scare. Ever seen those signs, don't move firewood because of the emerald ash borer or something? So if Indiana said, we're going to stop this, so they say any vehicles carrying wood, we're going to inspect at the border to make sure we don't have this. They would be allowed to charge something to cover that expense. Okay, but no more than it was to cover that expense. Okay. And to make sure they're honest with that, we have the next part of the statement. And it says, and the net produce of all duties and imposts laid by any state on imports or exports shall be for the use of the Treasury of the United States. So if the state of Indiana said, we're going to charge this amount to cover the inspections for the wood coming in, and they overcharged by $10 billion by accident, that money goes to the national government. Can anybody think why that statement is there? What would states always do?
Start regulating and creating revenue.
Yeah, they would always estimate wrong. Oh man, we did it again, another extra $10 billion. How did we do that? This is to keep it honest. It really is just enough to cover the inspections. If they end up making money, it goes to the national government. Okay. So there's not that incentive there. And then the last statement, all such laws, anything along this line, imposts, duties, etc., shall be subject to revision and control of Congress. So, all right, should we have a drum roll or a moment of silence? You're thinking maybe 15 minutes of silence so we can dismiss class. All right, last paragraph here. No state shall, without the consent of Congress, so we have that same phrasing, lay any duty of tonnage, that's a tax on ships based upon the size of the ship, a tax basically. Keep troops, right, so the Indiana men-at-arms, Congress has to approve, or ships of war in time of peace. Okay, so they can do these, but Congress has to approve of it. And they'll enter into any agreement or compact with another state or with the foreign power. We will come back to that in a second. So us in Illinois, if we want to make some agreement, Congress has to approve. Okay. Or with a foreign power. The last part, or engage in war, unless actually invaded or in such imminent danger as will not admit of delay. The Canadians finally get sick and invade, and they're storming across the border. They plow through Michigan and they're coming into Indiana. We don't have to sit around and wait for an act of Congress to defend ourselves. We can defend ourselves, but if we wanted to attack Canada, they would have to get Congress to approve of that, and then we could attack Canada. I don't know. Might be worth it. Okay, so anyway, restrictions on states. I do want to mention one thing that more comes up as a question with the president, but we can see it here. It says that states can't enter into a compact with a foreign power. We already have, back at the beginning of Section 10, no state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation. Okay, so we have kind of two separate things here, the treaties and these compacts with them. And it does bring up a question with the president, a legitimate question. There's some legitimate room here for wiggling around some of what type of agreements are treaties and what type of agreements aren't. The president does have the authority to make some sort of a compacts and agreements, and it's just him doing it with the other countries. But there are some things that are treaties that require the approval of Congress. Can anybody think of a situation we're in the middle of right now that he's trying to claim is just a compact with another state that does not require the approval of Congress?
Iran.
The Iran deal. He said, oh, this isn't a treaty. The point is valid that he does have that authority. His claim about that agreement is not valid. I mean, that is, I don't know what a treaty is if that isn't a treaty. But he knows Congress isn't going to approve it, so he's trying to go other ways. So. Okay, so it's a legitimate question. We will see that a little bit more once we get to the president. So. All right, questions about any of that? All right. Before we start into the executive branch, I have a list here. I just have miscellaneous things about Congress. Some other things that I think we should at least mention and talk about that don't come up in the direct reading of the Constitution, but deal with Congress. So here's some other odds and ends about Congress. And if we're good, I want to get through this today. We've got, 12 minutes or so? 11. Listen fast. All right, the first thing, we go till 9:45, right? Okay, 9:50? 10? 10? Yes.
We have an observation at 9:45.
Yeah, but doesn't this class go till 9:45? Yeah, so I mean, I'll let you out at 9:45, but I'm going to take all my time today. So, all right, I really want to finish up Article 1, Congress. So the next class period we can plow. Just after you hand me those wonderful questions and answers, then we'll jump into the executive branch. So, all right, first thing is some reasons why we have a bicameral legislature. We've already hit upon some of these, but I found someplace a nice list of 3. So, no. There are 3 different reasons here that I will mention. One is a theoretical reason, and I think that is the predominant one in the mind of our founding fathers. But then there's a practical reason and then a historical reason why. So theoretically, we have this bicameral legislature because it diffuses the power of the legislature. Congress, in our system, in a Republican system, is going to naturally dominate. And they gave it a bicameral system to diffuse that power. Okay, and that, I think, is the foremost, most important one. Reading the Federalist Papers, you're not going to see them really address the other 2. That's the reason. So, but there's some other reasons that at least are worth thinking about. All right, a practical reason why we have a bicameral legislature. All right, this is it settles the Great Compromise. Remember the Constitutional Convention and all the squabbling about how Congress is going to be composed. This gave us a solution to that. So it recognized the interest of the large states and recognized the interest of the small states. We have the Great Compromise. So, and then historically, can anybody think of an historical reason why we end up with a bicameral legislature? Josh wants to answer. Jacob?
Rome.
Rome? Okay. Even closer to home than Rome. England, it's what they were used to. Most of the colonies had bicameral, so it was something they were used to. So I think they were used to it mostly because of the theoretical reason, because they knew that power needed to be diffused, but that's all right. All right, so some reasons for a bicameral legislature. The next thing is just some terms, 2 terms, and the 2 terms are terms and sessions. All right. A term of Congress is the 2-year time frame for which the congressmen are elected. The members of the House are elected. So we have a term of Congress, 11, 12, 13, I don't know. We're somewhere around the 113th term of Congress. You know, every 2 years. I have here 2008 was that was the second half of the 110th Congress, the 110th term. So we could We could do the math real quick. But anyway, that's called a term, right? The other term here is a session. A session. This is the time frame that they actually meet for during a year. Each term has 2 sessions. We're in the end of the first session of this particular term right now. Most of the time, each term has 2 sessions, one in the first year, one in the second year. And up until about World War II, they only lasted 4 or 5 months. Wouldn't it be so beautiful if by the time school gets out in the spring, Congress is done? Right? But they are still meeting. They started in January, and they're still there trying to figure out more and exciting ways to destroy our lives. Right, so it used to be a much more clear, all right, we're starting our session, we're ending. The Indiana legislature, they start in January, I believe it is, and usually are done by March. Every other year, it's even shorter. And so they have their session, they're done, they go home. That is the thought here. Today, with basically Congress meeting year-round, the two really do blend together. They go home for their Christmas break and come back and start another session. But it's really hard to distinguish them. All right, so terms and sessions. Next thing to talk about is districts. Districts. Here we're talking about the location from where people are elected to Congress, to the House particularly. The districts for the Senate are pretty cut and dry. There's 2 per state. But the House, it is up for question about how they're drawn and that type of thing. The first thing to mention is 1842. We have actually a legitimate thing here. Congress mandated that members of the House be elected from single-member districts. You had to take the state, if there were 5 members of Congress in your state, and divide it up into 5 pieces, and each piece send 1 member to Congress. Okay. Before that, there were several states that elected their members of Congress. The term is at large. That doesn't mean they elected the fat ones. All right. What they did is they would have an election for the whole state, and the top 5 got to go to Congress. So everyone see the difference? Instead of picking 1 winner from each district, the top 5 went. Okay, that second way is called at large. There are still elections like this. Porter County, not for Congress, but for our county commissioners, there are 3 districts. And that, there's 1 elected from each district, South, Central, and Northern Porter County. I think there's 2 members at large that are elected from the whole county. So we still have some of this type of thing. But this is saying, this is actually a law from Congress, which is appropriate. They do have this authority. They mandated that they have to be single-member districts. So we have that today. All right, some other things to talk about with districts. The next thing is gerrymandering. Gerrymandering, 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 is drawing districts for political favors, to favor your political party. I'm outside this district, but there's a district for the Indiana legislature, the Senate, that includes the northern part of Porter County, a little chunk of it that's very conservative, and it has a little sliver along the lake, and then the east side of Gary. And I used to live in the district, and I got mail from the Gary representative that I voted for here in Porter. And that was drawn for political advantage. All right, it eliminated, it nullified basically the conservative vote in this area. So that's gerrymandering. The original term goes back to 1812 when a guy named Elbridge Gerry, the governor of Massachusetts, was helping draw these districts. And there's a really strange shaped one, and someone said it looks like a salamander. And I said, no, that's a gerrymander. And that phrase has stuck for these strangely drawn districts. All right, so gerrymander, drawing districts for a political advantage for a particular party. All right, for a long time, there were no real restrictions on this, especially after the 1929 Reapportionment Act. That's the one where they froze the members of Congress. That forced lots of states to really have to evaluate this district. There's no restrictions at all. So we've got some really strange things. The Supreme Court did eventually begin to weigh in on this very inappropriately, but they did. 1964, we have a case that mandated these congressional districts have to be as equal in population as possible. It was the Westbury versus Sander case. As equal in population as possible. They claimed it was part of the equal protection of the laws. If you have a district with 10 people in it and a district with 1,000 people in it, these 1,000 people, their vote only counts for 1/1,000th of a member of Congress, but these people counts for 1/10. And they said, oh, that's somehow an unfair violation. Either way, it's a violation of the Constitution. I don't really think that's the case. It's left to the states to decide if that needed to happen. Congress does have the authority to pass a law to regulate that, but the court does not have the authority. So anyway, equal in population, the phrase was there, one man's vote is as good as another man's vote, or something was the phrase that they used. All right, so that was 64. There's also another court case that said you couldn't gerrymander based on race. So you couldn't draw a district that had only black people in it, or only white people, or only Hispanics, or only Native American Indians, or whatever. So, you can gerrymander based on other things, just not race. Got 2 minutes. 2 minutes. So, all right, let's at least get one more thing here. Lobbyists. We're not going to get completely done. We'll have the committees to talk about when we come back. But lobbyists. A lobbyist is just a person or a group who represents some special interest group at the legislature. Special interest is a very bad tone to it. But there's a guy in Indianapolis, Eric Miller, who is a lobbyist. He represents churches in Indiana. He'll go around and talk to members of Congress, members of the state legislature, find out what they're thinking. He'll propose problems or issues with laws and bring them up. He's there representing churches. Okay, the car industry has lobbyists. Lots of people complain about all these evil lobbyists. They're not evil. Okay, they might do some wrong things. It'd be like saying all these evil cars, they get used for bank robberies or something. Okay. Anyway, they can be good or bad. The real problem with Congress is, and I love this phrase, isn't so much these lobbyists and all this, is that there's so much government for sale. If Congress restricted itself to what it actually was constitutionally allowed to do, there'd be no reason for the car manufacturers of America to send lobbyists to Washington and take out all the senators to $1,000 dinners and that type of thing. There'd be no reason for it. So, but anyway, because we've allowed them to just blow past their boundaries, those industries do have a real reason to be there representing their cases. So, all right, lobbyists, it's time.